All right, we might get started. I know we have a very packed morning with this webinar, so I just wanted to kick it off and introduce myself. I am Jen Thomas. I head up memberships and marketing at IAB Australia, and I'm really excited to be able to bring you this webinar today on sustainable marketing. I know for myself and for the rest of the speakers today, it's definitely a topic that is close to all of our hearts, and we're really excited to be able to educate you a little bit more on this area. So as mentioned, we do have some really great speakers. We will be kicking off with a couple of presentations, firstly from Lupe Prada at Gumtree Australia, which will then lead us into Tim Devine on some creative examples from AKQA. We will then go into a short presentation from Vinnie, who has started her own sustainable business called The Happy Human, and we'll be able to hear a little bit more about that. And then that will lead us into a bit of a panel discussion led by our CEO, Gai Le Roy, and we'll be joined by Sam Turley at Mindshare and Shannon Fitzpatrick at Gumtree as well. So we've got lots to get through and some really exciting research for you guys to have a look at. So I will kick off with Lupe to take over and share.
Thank you, Jen. I'll just share my screen. Thumbs up. Can you see me there? Great. Okay, so thanks again, Jen, for that kind introduction. As mentioned, my name is Lupe Prada, and I head up the B2B marketing and insights here at Gumtree Australia. Today, I'd like to take you through the key findings of our inaugural Trading in the Circular Economy report. For over 14 years, Gumtree has helped Australians upcycle to a better way of life by encouraging more profitable choices for their wallets and for the planet. Since our report's inception in 2010, our inaugural insights into the secondhand economy has demonstrated the unique opportunities available to Australians when they buy and sell pre-loved items. But before we dive in, a quick snapshot of what's to come. In 2021, Gumtree's Secondhand Economy Report evolved to tell a new story, that when we share more, we waste less. To amplify our message further and continue to improve as a business ourselves, we partnered with Planet Ark, Australia's most trusted environmental organisation. Our partnership begins with educating Australians on the benefits of trading in the circular economy to drive the adoption of a more sustainable practice. So what exactly is the circular economy? Well, we've evolved from a linear, disposable society where much of what we buy goes straight to landfill. Born out of the sustainability movement, the circular economy rethinks the way we use products and services for the benefit of society. Together with consumers, businesses are now rethinking the full life cycle of a product and finding opportunities to stop or at least greatly reduce the wastage we've come to find normal. The holistic move towards a more thoughtful approach to what we buy, how it is produced, and where it ends up on our planet is, in essence, the circular economy, and Gumtree is a notable facilitator in this space. In a quick snapshot, this year's report reveals the unlocked potential for our pre-loved items and shows Australians how easy it is to improve their financial well-being while also encouraging a more sustainable trade. We discovered savvy Aussies are stand to make over $5,000 per household from their unwanted items. Based on this estimate, all pre-loved items in Australian households could be worth over $48 billion as part of the Australian economy. Now that's growing 4% year on year and a whopping 89% over the past 10 years. On average, we know 87% of Australians have pre-loved items they could be selling, with around 21 items per household. Now that's up from 19 in 2020. And it's not unusual to have many more than this, with 1 in 5 having 40 or more pre-loved items in their household that they don't use or want. Now, in a unique year, we took a look at the impacts of COVID on today's consumer. So where are we now? The COVID-19 pandemic has had far-reaching impacts for the Australian economy and population in all corners of life, but the financial burden has been notable. Close to half of the Australian population were financially affected by the pandemic in some way. 1 in 3 Aussies reported a decrease in their earnings, and 1 in 3 Aussies are experiencing some form of financial stress. But only 6% rate their current financial strain as high. In a COVID world, Australians are reaching for a greater financial freedom that they can manage themselves. Due to economic uncertainty, stagnant wage growth, and interest rate uncertainty, top financial concerns do include 53% are concerned about their ability to pay household expenses such as food, utility, bills, or just the internet. 31% are concerned about the ability to pay off items they've bought using pay now, buy later options. This includes credit cards, store credit, afterpay. And furthermore, 3 in 10, the equivalent of 4.7 million Australians, say that while they feel comfortable about their current financial situation, they would still struggle if something unexpected came up. With the financial strain of COVID-19 being felt far and wide, savvy Australians are increasingly taking financial freedom into their own hands. As such, Australians are more open to trading in the circular economy than ever before, and Aussies are cashing in. Australians are really leaning into the circular economy, becoming more active in online marketplaces and cashing up. In fact, 55% of Australians who experience a decrease in income or revenue due to the pandemic have created their own alternative income streams. 48% are selling their unwanted goods to pocket some extra cash, and 40% are more likely to sell their unwanted goods via marketplaces. It's clear that more and more Aussies are tuning into online marketplaces to pocket extra money and support their side hustle. A trend that we at Gumtree are seeing grow over the past 12 months, with more people investing into their personal passions and new business startups on the rise. Interestingly, Millennials and Gen Z are leading the way in cashing in with the circular economy. 60% and 53% are more likely to have sold pre-loved items in the last year compared to baby boomers, which are lagging at 38%. Millennials in particular have generated more from the sale of their items, close to 7K, compared to Gen Z and baby boomers. But on average, the everyday Aussie stands to generate approximately $5,300 per household for the sale of unwanted items, which is quite a notable figure all up. In light of financial pressures today and a growing interest in sustainable practices, the circular economy is thriving. Half of Australians have sold pre-loved items in this last year. Those who have sold pre-loved items have sold an average of 11 items per person over the last year, and this equates to 89 million used goods changing hands in the past 12 months and avoiding landfill, which is incredible. Most commonly sold items include clothing, shoes, accessories, home decor and furniture, electronic goods, books, games, and toys. Those already trading in the circular economy are reaping the financial benefits. Interestingly, more than two in 3 Australians sell their unwanted items via online marketplaces with the direct intention of using the funds to replace with something new. When looking to sell pre-loved items, 9 in 10 are likely to consider replacing the item they're selling also with something new. In essence, online marketplaces like Gumtree can unlock value from items Australians no longer need to then upgrade to buy something they really want, whilst giving their pre-loved goods a second life. So what are Australians even buying with this extra cash anyway? With much of Australia spending more time at home than ever before, it's no surprise that Australians are continuing to invest in new home renovations. 1 in 5 spent the money on lifestyle items or home and garden items that they would have normally spent on holidays. Sadly, we're not going on as many holidays as we used to be. We've also seen the home renovation and holiday here trend alive and well on Gumtree. I believe it's a trend that's here to stay and will outlive COVID. Our research shows that there's a growing consideration around the future of the planet and the shifting of traditional models of consumption for more sustainable practices. Environmentally minded Australians are beginning to utilise Gumtree more and more each year, opting to trade pre-loved or unused items in the circular economy in a mission to reduce waste. 81% of Australians have made significant changes to their personal consumption habits in the past decade for the well-being of the planet. 86% of Australians are actively basing their purchase decisions on sustainability, whether that be in retail fashion, telco, banking, even sustainable investments. And the top 3 reasons for trading in the circular economy for a sustainable future are to reduce and recycle, reduce waste they send to landfill, and to be a conscious consumer. So who tops the charts? Today's modern Australians are thinking sustainably, with 86% of all Aussies saying they have saved at least 16 items from landfill in the last year. Millennials and Gen X are front runners though, being the most likely to save items from landfill. You can see here at 90, 89 and 78% for Gen Z, all very high figures. In line with this welcome growth, more Aussies are reaping the benefits for the circular economy. To get an understanding of what's driving increased trading, we asked Aussies what they thought the main benefits were. So 55% believe in giving items a second life, 44% just want to unclutter their home, and 40% are looking to pocket some extra cash. Lastly, 37% believe sustainability is the main key benefit, all quite high figures. Now, for 14 years, Gumtree has helped Australians upcycle to a better life by encouraging more profitable choices for their wallets and the planet. But I also wanted to take a look at what brands are doing or what you could be doing to support the sustainability movement. Australia is actually behind most of our global counterparts in the push for a circular economy. And this is a leadership opportunity for brands. Through the pandemic, we spent more time getting our own house in order, literally looking in our wardrobes and emptying home improvement projects. These rely on upselling, upcycling, and uptrading to create space for the new. And naturally, this boosts the local economy. Australians are increasingly boosting local circularity by holidaying locally and investing more money in their local neighbourhoods and communities, in turn, and investing in local businesses. And finally, small steps make a big difference, and it adds up to less disposal in landfill and a little more consciousness around taking time to sell or give away when we renew. We are taking the time to sell or give away within our locality. Now a look at cultural influences. Now, the circular economy has existed since 1976, but it's only let back into mainstream in the last few years. Embraced by Gen Z and Millennials particularly, it's now a way of life for many and growing rapidly. Importantly for brands, 66% of all global consumers are willing to pay extra for sustainable products, and that grows to 73% for Millennials. A real opportunity. But there are many more businesses leaning into sustainability and circular consumption. Here are just 4 that are leading the way on a global scale. IKEA, as you would know, is the world's largest furniture retailer, and their goal is to have fully recycled products brought and sold by 2030. Levi's, on top of its jeans recycling initiative, the company is conserving 3.5 billion litres of water by finishing the denim using other techniques, such as washing with golf balls and bottle caps, all upcycled, of course. AB InBev, the world's largest brewer, are moving towards 100% majority recycled materials in their packaging, and even created a protein drink with leftover grains from the brewing process. And Adidas is leading the footwear retail space, converting ocean plastic into shoes, helping recycle 55 million plastic bottles every year. Lastly, A snapshot of brands who are leading the way here in Australia. Volvo, Woolworths, and CBA have all invested in purpose-focused comms. Today's consumers are more purpose-driven and discerning, so I believe advertisers should be too. Lastly, the circular economy is the future, and Gumtree is and always has been a really important part of its growth. Living in the mix on Gumtree means pairing a new set of sheets with a beautiful vintage sideboard. We are the connection point for Australians trading in their neighbourhoods, living in between the mix of the old and new. If you'd like to know more about our report or today's circular economy trends, please download the full report in the link provided here in the chat. I'd now like to pass over to Tim Devine. Thank you.
Oh. Thanks, Lupe. Great. How's that? Right. Yeah, that was great. So I really, really appreciate the ideas within the circular economy. I think they're a really meaningful step towards a more sustainable world. And I think one thing I wanted to start this presentation off with is, so I'm going to present 3 projects that we're delivering this year that hopefully give you a sense of how we can choose to make the world differently than the way it is now. And I think one other thing that I want you to think about is, when we think about sustainability, what is it that we're trying to sustain? There are lots of things that we kind of have a choice now of kind of letting go, you know, and moving forward to a more equitable, diverse, inclusive world. So hopefully some of these projects lead into that. But I wanted to start with that provocation. What is sustainability to you? So let me play this case study to give you a sense of what Tennis Australia and AKQA and Monash University have done to promote a more inclusive
an opportunity for everyone to enjoy the game.
Action Audio was launched during the men's, women's, and wheelchair finals of the 2021 Australian Open Tennis Tournament to a global audience of millions. With just 2 months of existing, Action Audio is a first step into a better access for millions of visually impaired sports fans. But it can go beyond, augmenting TV content and even helping on day-to-day activities.
Great. So hopefully that gives you a sense of the types of things that we can do. Every project that I'll show you today is founded on data and how we can use data to help shape and create new experiences. That project is special because it's powered by existing data sets in the electronic line calling and existing audio technology that's being developed and kind of matured by VR and AR. So the spatialized audio aspects that come out of those technologies help us give far more information to people who are blind or visually impaired. And we're working with Tennis Australia to take this to all sports, because we think that the research is not about what we think, it's about the research that showed that the people that we're creating it with find it meaningful. So it's an exciting project. The other project we're working on, which is also equally kind of driven by data, existing data that we're able to use and collate, pull together, is a project with Oxford University. I think Lupe touched a little bit on this in the circular economy, but what we find is that producers of goods, food or other, make choices, and consumers have little visibility on what those choices are. And then when they've finished with them, they put them into the public domain. So that journey is broken. You know, a lack of transparency on how things are being made, and a kind of saying yes to something, and then putting it into the public domain to be kind of disposed of, or throwing it away. And we kind of saw this as a problem worth fixing, and we saw it in a way like nutritional information for the planet. If we took away the nutritional information that we have access to on the back of food products, people would be up in arms. They're saying, well, I don't understand how this impacts my body. But at the moment, when it comes to how food products particularly, impact the planet, we have zero visibility on that. We have, at best, we'll have a reductionist view of carbon footprint, or we'll have a certification, which is in and of itself a kind of belief system. So consumers don't have the transparency that's required to be able to make informed decisions. So we're working with Oxford University, who have come up with a new system to be able to communicate a richer set of impacts on the environment based on a global meta-study of food chains and producers. It encompasses biodiversity impact, water usage, greenhouse gas emissions, and pesticide toxicity and eutrophication, where fertilizers and things are going into the ocean and messing up our oceans and waterways. So it starts to tell a richer story about the choices that we're making. It gives people more information about how the choices we're making are impacting the world that we live in. And we're excited to hear things from Oxford University around the lines to give you a bit of context. Our role as AKQA is to help steward emerging research and emerging deep thought into the real world. And there's no better feedback than to get an unprompted response from a professor at Oxford University saying, we spend our whole lives as researchers trying to get information to people, and you've been able to do it way better than we've ever been able to do. So as a communications agency or company, a design and innovation company that AKQA is, this is our role now. This is our opportunity, is to understand what's happening, understand the context, and try and bring that into the real world for people to have that access to that information. The next project I'll show you is a project that uses data powered by the United Nations Protected Planet database. And it's another example of how we can make a choice, and manufacturers and companies and organizations have an opportunity to make a choice to make the world differently.
On Amazon Day, a film featuring the Nobel Peace Prize nominee Hauni Metuchiri launched the Code of Conscience, an open source software that restricts the use of heavy-duty vehicles in protected areas. It combines combines data from the United Nations World Database on protected areas with the geolocation of the vehicles. The code is free and already available to all manufacturers. A small and low-cost chip was designed to symbolize the feasibility to implement the code in any machine. And sustainable sourced sculptures of endangered species were sent as an invitation to the CEOs of the top 10 manufacturers of the world.
The ongoing project received global coverage on major media outlets, sparking the interest of private companies and governments. 2 global manufacturers are discussing the implementation of the code on future machinery. We started implementing the code in machines of 3 Tentos, one of the biggest Brazilian agricultural companies. A government just signed the implementation of the code of conscience on heavy machines, trucks, and boats operating near the Amazon. And another one in Europe is interested in turning the code into a law.
Yeah, so that's it from me. That's kind of 3, in my view, there's 3 projects that we're delivering this year that take a different view on how things could be, and take a different view on what we should be sustaining and prioritizing. So I'm going to hand over to Vinnie now, who I know has got an amazing product, and excited to see what she says. Vinnie, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Yeah, so just a quick introduction about Happy Human. We are an eco-friendly startup based in Sydney, and our mission is to end single-use plastic in all consumer products by encouraging a reuse and refill movement, starting with the range of these just add water household cleaning products that's similar to like a Barocca for your hand wash and surface cleaner. If you go to the next page, I have like a quick introduction of how it works. Essentially, up front, you get these reusable bottles. The hand wash comes in a glass bottle because it's stationary on your sink usually, and then these multi-purpose comes in heavy wall PET. These are all just one-time purchase up front, and then going forward, you get these refillable tabs that comes in this concentrated format, and because they're solid and not liquid, we can wrap them in paper-based compostable packaging material. That's how we achieve our mission of reducing single-use plastic, not to mention obviously the reduced carbon emission of not shipping water around the world. And it works just like a Barocca, so you fill these reusable bottles up with warm tap water, drop in these fizzy tablets. Once they fully dissolve, you have a full-size cleaning product like you would have, usually get off the shelf. If you go to the next page, in terms of key benefits of the product, it's the ingredients are similar to what you have in these, the traditional way of how you've been consuming it. So it's equally effective. There's no SLS, no palm oil, vegan, cruelty-free, and we make it as plant-based as possible. In terms of the packaging, we thought about everything from the forever reusable bottle to the compostable paper refill packaging side of things. In terms of refills, I think when I first started out on this journey of cutting down on my own single-use plastic consumption, I felt that it is, as a consumer, it's very hard for you to get it in an accessible format, both from a convenience and a price standpoint. And so Happy Human exists to kind of break this stereotype. We want to make it as accessible as possible. So because we're saving a lot of shipping fee from not shipping this water around the world, we pass it on to our end consumer. So refills are coming at like 3 to 4 per tabs. And so that's very accessible in our point of view. Obviously, because of how compact it is also saving a lot of space at home. Lastly, it's made with natural essential oil. Our hand wash is made with tea tree oil, and then our multi-purpose is made and scented with lavender. But yeah, these are some of the key benefits. This is our mission in terms of what our next step is. We actually just launched in April, so we're still like a baby when it comes to our journey so far, but obviously very excited to hit our next milestone to get about 10,000 Aussies to join this refill movement, so we can collectively save at least 500,000 of single-use plastic. This is kind of based on a survey that we did on how many single-use plastic products of these household items from cleaning and personal care products that we did earlier on in our journey. If you want to check us out more, it's heyhappyhuman.com. But yeah, and also happy to obviously take on any questions towards the end of the webinar. I realized I also forgot to, I was so nervous that I forgot to like introduce myself. Obviously, I'm the founder and CEO of Happy Human. And this is a quick overview of what we do. And again, yeah, feel free to reach out to me at Vinnie@heyhappyhuman.com. Or, you know, towards the end of the webinar, feel free to pop in your questions and I'll be happy to answer anything you have.
Thanks so much, Vinnie. You didn't seem nervous, but I was going to, before we jump into the rest of the panel, I just want to ask you, I guess, your passion for sustainability and reducing plastics, did that start early on? What was the trigger? Was there a turning point for you?
Yeah, no, I think for me, both my husband and I have been scuba divers for over a decade, and over time kind of seeing the impact of not just single-use plastic, but also global warming and what it's done to our ocean really kind of trigger us to do something about it. And when we started, you know, kind of start small, cutting down our own single-use plastic consumption, but we found that a lot of the options in the market are either really expensive or not as accessible, and obviously we're not ready to live in a forest, so we felt that there needs to be a more accessible solution, which is what we set out to do with Happy Human. I was also born in Malaysia, and it's a country, unfortunately, that's kind of becoming like a plastic dumping ground for the world. When China stopped recycling plastic in 2018 for most of, I guess, developed countries. And so yeah, like I think that too really kind of prompted me to start and get on this Happy Human journey.
Perfect, thanks for that. I might bring the rest of the panel back in. Sam, Tim, Shannon, if you want to turn on your cameras and we can have a bit of a chat. Welcome, Sam and Shannon. Thank you so much, Vinnie, Tim, and Lupe, for great presentations. I've got a million ideas in my head going off, but I'll try and keep a little bit structured. Sam, you would deal with clients, large, small, local, global, which I guess can be tricky. I mean, one of the interesting things, and Lupe mentioned some of the initiatives, some of the big global brands that are particularly doing some sort of circular economy, sort of repurposing, trade-ins, etc., which is incredibly interesting, I think, from a brand point of view. Couple of questions for you. What do you feel like it does for their brand, for their, I guess, their first-hand products versus their second-hand market, and how that comes across? And how do you authentically, and I'm sorry that word's really cliched and overused, but how do you activate on that and bring it to life and really communicate that clearly?
It's such a good question. I mean, many of our clients have already begun their transition to the circular economy. So Nike, for example, they have a couple of key initiatives as part of their Move to Zero plan. So their ambition is to create this continuous loop without waste. So one of these is called Nike Refurbished. So they take products that get returned, so they might be gently worn or they might have a slight manufacturing snag, and then they make them available for resale. So this is something they're currently trialing in the States. They also have Nike Grind, which is for shoes that are too worn to be donated. So you can drop them off at a Nike store and they can be upcycled along with manufacturing scrap into high performance recycled material. So what that means is other manufacturers can use that for everything from gym equipment to making basketball court surfaces. IKEA, as well as Lupe mentioned, so they are designing all their products to be 100% circular by 2030. So they have a buyback scheme that is now encouraging customers to be part of that circularity. So if your furniture is in good enough condition, it can be returned in exchange for a voucher for the store. And then other customers can then go and buy that secondhand furniture. So anything that can't be sold is then donated or recycled. So I think these initiatives are a really great example of getting that triple bottom line. So they're a win for business, they're obviously a win for customers, and they're a win for the planet because of the waste that they're diverting from landfill. So yes, to your first question, it absolutely benefits their reputation. But, and this is kind of linking to your second point, it only does, I think, because these types of initiatives are part of a much bigger and comprehensive sustainability strategy. So these are not token efforts. And I think it's really important to call out that in today's world, if brands do dip into these schemes sort of solely and more as stunts, then they are going to get called out for it. And I think the really interesting thing here, when we think about this growing appetite for buying and selling in the used marketplace, as Lupe was talking about, it's one of the biggest challenges for these kind of businesses and for our clients is enabling this behavior at scale, because that's the really tough thing, because, you know, taking and storing secondhand furniture, you know, you need space and you need staff, and all of those actions have an impact. And I think, you know, what's really interesting is that if we think about it, we've been doing this trade in, trade up behavior forever for things like houses, for things like cars, any kind of major purchases. But for those more everyday consumer goods, we've really come to kind of create this almost cost versus effort calculation, which is something that we see playing out. And I think if we can find ways to reduce those pain points for people, as Vinnie is doing with Happy Human, then that's when we're really going to get the game changer.
Maybe we need to make all sort of secondhand goods as groovy as the sneaker economy. It feels like a really interesting place for Nike to start, because it's, you know, already got cachet.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that is helping, actually, is that brands that are now playing in that secondhand marketplace are doing that job of kind of taking the dackiness out of wearing secondhand, and that is obviously boosting and encouraging that behavior. And luxury brands as well are helping in that space, for example, with Gucci and their secondhand boutiques and things like that. So that's all helping to kind of normalize, or in fact, not just normalize that behavior, but actually have social currency attached to it.
Fantastic. Vinnie, I might chat to you, I guess, around, you know, where we're obviously talking to a marketing community and advertising cohort here. You've talked a lot about, I guess, the ethos of your brand, the development of the brand. Can we get down to, I guess, you know, your marketing strategies, how you've connected with people, I guess any difficulties that have been sort of to get your message out there, and what's really worked?
Yeah, I guess for us, you know, obviously based on, you know, Lupe's presentation has really good stats about how millennials, Gen Z, they all care about this issue. And for us, luckily enough, a lot of them are very digital, like they're digital natives. And so really kind of leveraging the Instagram, Facebook, and increasingly TikTok channels to help us bring awareness, not just about Happy Human, but about the broader plastic-free mission, as well as, like kind of approaching this topic, you know, in an imperfect way as well, because ultimately we do want millions of people doing, you know, things together versus like just a couple of people trying to do this perfectly. So I think that's like I'd say a main channel that we've been using. If you follow us at Hey Happy Human on Instagram and TikTok, you can see that I guess our small team have been kind of pushing a lot of like organic channel to kind of help, you know, raise awareness to the issue that we're solving. I think on top of that, you know, working with like various influencers that align with the values as well, to kind of help grow the brand, as well as bring awareness to the single-use plastic problem.
I think 2 years ahead, Vinnie, and you're a, you know, $100 million business in multiple markets, huge success. How do you feel that might impact the way you operate? Does it, you know, does it create, I presume you dream that far out, you know, what challenges will that bring? How can your business really stay authentic and close to your consumers and close to your message?
Yeah, I think it's really kind of just really putting the focus of people and planet at the forefront, and then really translating that into our daily decisions and actions, right? Like I think even as a small startup or small business, when we started almost 2 years ago, it was really hard to find number one, like building an innovative product. It was really hard to find manufacturers, and then sustainable materials are, to be honest, like pretty hard to come by. 2 years ago, when we looked at compostable packaging, it was not available in Australia. We had to actually go to Europe, and then now there are more and more partners, it seems like, who can source from the same places. And so I think it's obviously a gradual process. I think what I feel like is important is really kind of like putting those values key at the forefront and translating that in daily habits, even as we grow. But what I'm excited about is that kind of as we grow, like a lot of these harder to come by options for sustainable, like I guess more sustainable alternatives will also become more and more mainstream. And ideally, that also means that we can make them in an even more accessible way and format, such that more people can also be part of the solution. Yeah, so I think how we're thinking about
fantastic. And one last one for you, Chloe. I'm just totally fascinated by growing businesses. That's great. Lockdown, I'm presuming it's been good for you, the upside of e-commerce taking off, and particularly for your product without that border padding, very light, easy to post. Have you seen a huge uptick just sort of driven from lockdown and people needing things delivered and also lighter packages delivered, I guess?
Yeah, I think we definitely reduced a lot of paid ads. I think when we first started and launched, I think 60% was more paid ads, paid social ads.
Oh, we like paid ads here. Sorry, just
like paid ads? Yeah, I guess I think with lockdown we actually kind of slowed down a little bit of the paid side, and partly so I think we think it's healthier to kind of have organic, obviously a mixture of both, half like paid and organic. Yeah. But I think we definitely see that that has, being an e-com D2C focused brand definitely helps. And I think the fact that, we can ship, 10 hand wash in an envelope, and make sure that you don't run out of these essentials is a really great value proposition. But yeah, I think again, we're still like rather new and definitely still in the process of like getting our name out there, raising brand awareness as well as awareness on the single-use plastic problem together.
Brilliant, thank you. Shannon, I can tell you're in sales, pointing to your logo in amongst that. That was fun.
I'm happy to talk to you around your paid advertising schedule too, by the way. So, but okay, definitely. First thing I wanted to say is I want to commend the IAB for bringing such, I guess, an important topic to the industry. I think the news cycle at the moment, we're inundated, I guess, on COVID, but environmental obviously concerns and its role within, I guess, our industry is really important to be highlighted. So I just wanted to say, obviously, thank you to Gai and the team.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's always hard to keep all the other issues top of mind when COVID's there, but it's really important that the other things don't go away while we're trying to deal with this horrible disease. Shannon, love the research that Lupe presented, and I love that you guys are investing in sort of that consumer voice. I guess for me, there's a lot of talk of sustainability, and there's a lot of greenwashing from some of the bigger companies. I guess this goes a little bit some of the stuff that Tim was talking around governance. How can consumers really, I guess, trust and, for all their, I guess, intentions and discussion around this being important, how can we make sure that companies really do fulfill on their promises so that, it doesn't make it too hard for consumers to actually, trust and buy with confidence?
I think, being kept honest, I think we should leave that to the ACCC, but companies need to, I guess, live, breathe, sustainability and do this well beyond, I guess, the marketing departments. We need to think past the use and dispose models and think about producing products in the supply chain that can be maintained, shared, and also given, I guess, multiple lives. If it's just in the marketing campaign, then yes, customers will label it, I guess, as greenwashing. Sustainability, I guess, needs to matter to the business from, I guess, the casual employee right through to the C-suite, because then only then change can actually be made from within, I guess, a company. So brands that are obviously leading the ways are putting, I guess, sustainability at their heart. And I just love all the examples from, today's obviously presentation. Volvo, I guess, using steel from, non-made through fossil fuels. Adidas obviously making sneakers from, recycled products. These are great examples of companies that, are putting sustainability at the heart of what they're doing. But at the same time, it's not just about, marketing campaigns, that these businesses are actually giving their employees purpose in relation to their organization. And while also, giving their customers a choice of preference too, in relation to looking at sustainability options. So for me, being really passionate obviously about the environment, I think as an industry we should be looking to applaud and support these businesses, I guess, rather than finger pointing or being cynical and I guess calling it greenwashing, and applaud them I guess for their ambition.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. Tim, thank you for your examples. I really was interested in that, I guess that movement right through from initiative to code to law. I found that really fascinating in terms of how we embed that in our world. It's something I think we could think about a whole lot of different ways, without making it too heavy-handed, but almost without thinking, have it in our ecosystems.
Yeah, it's funny. I head up the innovation offer at AKQA, and I think a lot of that really boils down to an ambition for clients to do something different, to reframe, to look at something new. So that's an absolute privilege, but it's a responsibility as well. We need to know that we need to make sure that we're accountable for the choices we're making. We work a lot with AI and we work a lot with other things, and everything has a kind of impact, and we need to understand all the facets of things. And I think that's essential to what we're doing. Like, for example, the work we're doing with Oxford, there's a lot of work to be done around how we are, where that data is coming from, right? Like to have a full map of the supply chain over the life cycle assessment, of a full thing. Where do you start to assess it? Do you start when you harvest the products? Do you start when you plant it? Do you start, years before, as you're establishing the crops and all that sort of stuff? So there's lots to be done, and there's lots to be decided on about where we draw a line around these sort of things. And it's one thing to be transparent, but it's understandably, many of us are cynical about how data is used to tell a story, right? And that's, I showed 3 examples there that all sort of say, here's data and here's how we can use it. And they're all 3 stories, right? But they have to follow through. They have to be accountable. And we as creators and designers and researchers need to be accountable for that. So there's a big responsibility that we do make all of these things sustainable from all perspectives. So they need to be desirable, they need to be viable, they need to be feasible. Otherwise, they will become quickly greenwashing or access washing, or whatever kind of impact you're trying to achieve. But yeah, I liked what Shannon was talking about. It's like, I really do believe that it's like we need to respect the ambition that people are going at, and as long as we're heading in a positive direction, with good intentions, and we're open to failing and we're open to trying new things, we will succeed, right? That's what we need. You have to start. I think it's Christiana Figueres, was the presiding chair over the Paris Agreement. We're working with her on a project at the moment, and her whole thing is, stubborn optimists. Just like stubbornly optimistic, and I think that's the attitude that we have to take to really overcome the challenges that we're all facing.
Yeah, great. Well, positive reinforcement always works. That's meant to work on children. It should work on the rest of the things as well. I'm going to start with Tim, and I'm going to come around to the rest of the panelists, and I guess look a little bit internally, because we've talked about great big, corporate global initiatives, new initiatives from Vinnie. As an industry, looking at how we operate, and it is an industry that I guess is about consumption as a starting point, encouraging consumption. but also an industry that has lots of big conferences, has a lot of different ways of operating that we don't usually think about us being, I guess, an energy inefficient industry or a wasteful industry. But there's a lot of things, you know, much to Tim's point about different models that, you know, really need to take a whole lot of different factors into place. How as a marketing and advertising industry can we help at an individual or company level? Tim?
Yeah, great. Yeah, fair question. I think it's, you know, we're hiring lots of people at the moment, and one of the things that I'm excited to say to them is that at the core of our team, in the innovation team and across AKQA, we're very purpose driven, but we might be very good at and might be very capable of doing solid, you know, mesmerizing marketing or advertising campaigns. But we're using our strengths to understand the deep research, the stuff that's coming out of Oxford or out of, you know, all the other universities that we're working with, local universities like RMIT and Monash, and taking that and framing it so it's understandable and it can be applied. It's really taking this emerging research and applying it, and that requires us to have the skills that have kind of been developed over the last 70 years since Edward Bernays, to try and communicate to people, you know, what's actually happening and how to do it in the right way, so that it doesn't get dismissed as advertising or greenwashing or marketing.
That's great, and that's quite inspiring for anyone coming into the industry, hopefully. Yeah. Shannon, I'll go around the other way. What can we do? We go to a million conferences with plastic everything, so we throw away lots of stuff. What can we do?
I guess as an industry, brands can, I guess, work with other like-minded companies, not to mention any, but obviously Gumtree. Also, I guess, like not-for-profit, I guess, organisations, you know, and work with them. Gumtree recently announced a partnership with Planet Ark and to, I guess, help support, I guess, the national circular economy and educate, I guess, Australians on the benefits to drive adoption of sustainable, I guess, consumer practices as well. So I guess we see that, I guess, as a key way that we're, you know, that can actually hold us to account in relation to acting sustainable. But, you know, sustainability is bred in relation to our true purpose and values that we instill within our business too. So it's you know,
that's great.
You ask people, you know, when we are recruiting as well, you know, if they use Gumtree and what's their Gumtree story, and you know, that way through an organisation, our people also are very passionate, I guess, around the environment.
Yeah, fantastic. Money where your mouth and recruit. It's right through. It's brilliant. Sam, agencies, what can you guys do there?
Well, as I mentioned, most of our clients now have ambitious net zero targets, and as a media agency, we can really help them on this path to decarbonisation by helping them with this getting actionable data in terms of that media supply chain, and just simply providing them with the data, to Tim's point, kind of creates that transparency that then empowers them to make the decisions to stay on track. So an example of this is the Media Climate Charter that we've launched in the UK, which is in collaboration with the IPA. And part of that is a tool which allows us to calculate the carbon footprint of every media plan that's based on the media mix. And it can also include everything right down to the carbon footprint of various different shoots and creative and so on. Also, I wanted to touch on a point that Tim was talking about thinking really broadly about what sustainability can mean for the planet and mean for business. So one of the things that we're doing is beyond just the environmental side of sustainability, we're looking to the other UN Sustainable Development Goals and looking at what else we can do to support that media marketplace moving forward. So we've got a range of initiatives that we're doing that help clients be more intentional with their media investment, such as having a private marketplace that's an inclusive private marketplace, and it allows us to support particular publishers. So, for example, LGBTQI publishers or Black publishers that really give and provide those essential voices to these different diverse communities, and ensure that we're really supporting that equitable media marketplace. So that's something we're really passionate about doing. So we're helping our clients grow, but we're also doing that in the most equitable way that we can, and supporting that journalism and those voices as well.
Yeah, I love that. The Beyond 3% initiative here has been really important, and it's and I love. I'm going to look more into that media climate charter. It's something we probably should look at locally, getting industry associations together.
We are.
Yeah,
Yes.
great, awesome. Vinnie, advice from you and to us, I guess, as someone who lives and breathes this every day. You're starting to deal more with the media and marketing community. Any tips on the journey, things we should be looking out for?
To be honest, nothing so super insightful. I feel like it's just same as when we set goals for living a healthier life, it's just really kind of like actually working out. I think the same if we want to build a cleaner planet, I think it just starts with like simple everyday action. And if you kind of think about, when you wake up, you brush your teeth, kind of swapping a plastic toothbrush to a bamboo toothbrush will make a massive difference. When you have leftovers, instead of using a plastic cling wrap, you use beeswax wraps. That would help. And then I think, obviously, when you think about cleaning products, you can try our reusable, refillable options like Happy Human instead of the single-use plastic options that you get from the supermarket. So those are some, I guess, just, making daily habits and small daily changes that will collectively
help. The perfect time for that, right? We're stuck at home.
Exactly.
We are eating leftovers all the time. We're not driving. And I guess when we go back into the world, if we've reset our habits into quite low footprint, habits of really having a conscious thought as we start entering the world again of how we do things.
Exactly. And I think I want to bring this up again. It's like, it's really hard to, even when you set your health goals, like, if you go like, I'm going to do like HIIT every day, like twice a day, and then like yoga, and like you kind of start jamming out this and do a life-changing plan, it's really hard to keep up, and it's not very sustainable. And I think it's more important to like, okay, just one small thing every day, and then kind of over time and obviously collectively that will make a bigger difference, and versus like just one person trying to move to and live in the forest or swim across the ocean and don't travel anywhere. So I think that's probably the most helpful tip that I personally practice myself. I'm definitely not like perfect. Like, we're always also about progress, which is partly why we name our company Happy Human. It's kind of like about celebrating small changes and any sort of contribution, big or small, because all of them will help collectively, especially when we look at that.
Fantastic. I love that you're all about all of you on the panel are all about positive and, supportive and growing rather than shaming. Thank you all so much for your time. That's been really inspiring and really useful as well. I think we need to make sure things are useful and we can act, do actions off the back of them. For any of the audience who missed, we did a Q&A article a couple of weeks ago with some of the people on the panel, as well as friends from BBC and Kantar. Tiff will share a link to that article. So go and have a read, because there's some really good extra information in there. Thank you to all our panelists today. Hope you all have a great day, and we'll be back with our next webinar in a fortnight. See ya. Thank you, everyone.